I'm Shyam Sundar from Yale University. Welcome to this sixth session of CRAE lectures. Today's lecture is Mr. Sudhanshu Mani's talk on the Train18, Vande Bharat story in poetry. As many of you already know, CRAE, or Collective for Reimagining Engineering Innovation, is an informal organization based on a simple idea: combining hands-on skills and knowledge in the same body is necessary for engineering innovation. Its members seek to promote engineering education in practice and education. These lectures are scheduled once every fortnight at 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and the recordings are made available on the CRAE website. So if you miss the lecture, you and your friends can watch them on the website. So today's lecture is by Mr. Sudhanshu Mani. He is a former general manager of the Indian Railways, integral coach factory in Chennai. He was a member of Indian Railways Service of Mechanical Engineers. And he's the one who inspired and led his creative team to initiate the idea and complete the manufacture of Train18, which is now known as Vande Bharat all over the country, within an incredible time period of 18 months. And on the process, he and his team overcame a myriad challenges on their way. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Mani to join us and tell us about Train18. Sudhanshu, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, sir.
I'm very grateful to CRAE for affording me this platform to talk to you today, particularly Professor Shyam Sundar, Professor Subramaniam, and Professor Vardarajan. I will now share my screen and begin the presentation. I'll be talking about Train18, which is now running in the country as Vande Bharat Express. And I've called it the story in poetry, and the reason will become clear soon. Usually when you've read or heard something about a speaker, you do come with the expectation that the speaker is going to be funnier than he usually is. But I'm not going to be funnier than I already am. I know it's a gathering of very civil and learned people. Still, to expect that all of you will listen to me very patiently just because I have some story to tell is like expecting that a bull will not charge you just because you are a vegetarian. I'll begin with these wonderful words of the people's president, APJ Abdul Kalam. The dream is not the thing that you see in sleep, but is that thing that doesn't let you sleep. In The Merchant of Venice, Portia says that if to do were as easy as to know what were good to do, chapels had been churches and poor man's cottages, princesses' palaces. In the same vein, if to do were as easy as to step forward and speak about it, ... And therefore, I will only speak about whatever little I was able to accomplish with a wonderful team that I worked with, proof of the pudding, as I call it. I come to you as a railway man for life. Railways in India, love it or hate it, is not something you can easily ignore. I'm not an accomplished speaker, but I do draw upon a lot from the wisdom down the old ages. My poet uncles, as I call them, my 600-year-old uncle Kabir, my 400-year-old uncle Shakespeare, and my 200-year-old uncle Ghalib, and others. It is the same old story. Some of you might have heard it. An old wine in new bottle, but I believe that this wine is like men who seldom turn to vinegar with age, but usually mature with age. And so I hope the story has also matured. And then there is a caveat, and this session is online, is because I'm a railway man for life. I have an inherent right to be derailed. So attempts to derail me would usually not work. So let me begin with this, what I call my quasi-Sarkari talk. As I said, same terroir, same body, same planet, but perhaps a rosé for you and some takeaways that I can afford for you today. I'll begin with the Make in India conundrum, which was started in 2014 by the government of the day. It was a measured success to my mind, not a great success. The attempt was only to make India a manufacturing hub of the world. Then came COVID and all its problems. Government did afford collateral-free loans and liquidity infusion and so many things, but basically rejigged into what it called Atmanirbhar Bharat, with the expectation that these lions of India, lions of Make in India, will roar into self-reliance. How many roars we have heard in past 3-4 years is for you to decide. I will limit myself to what goes on in railways. So railways have always imported technology, and it's called transfer of technology. You purchase 30, 40 of the rolling stock. A rolling stock is something that moves on tracks, train, locomotive, or any vehicle which moves on a track. Then you get CKDs, PKDs, assemble them. There is a transfer of documents, specification, protocols, training on the shop floor. You visit abroad, learn, try to learn from them, which are more like, if I dare say, jaunts abroad. But in spite of passage of decades after importing the technology, we are not able to manufacture to the standard we. So where was I? So why is that? It's because technology is not a simple matter. Technology is a creation. It lives in the mind and the heart of the creator. There is no way to transfer that. And that's why I call it an oxymoron. I will use a couplet here and I'll translate it as well. Poet Faraq has said, मेरे शेर आईना खाने में तेरी बेशुमार अदाओं के मगर ऐसी भी है कोई अदा जो रहेगी सीना ए राज में. I can go poetic about your beauty and all the multiple aspects of your beauty. But there is something, some elegance of your beauty which will remain buried in the recesses of my heart, and there's no way you can get access to that. And therefore, good or bad, you have to make a beginning by creating a technology yourself. It's not going to be world class, it's not going to be great, but it's going to be your baby. And you will have it with ownership and pride. and only way after that is up. Unlike imported technology, which we tend to deteriorate with age, this is something you will build upon and only improve. My message is simple. Unless the gap is too large, and when I say the gap is too large, we are a prisoner of either being mindlessly global or hopelessly local. The truth, ladies and gentlemen, is somewhere near being hopelessly local, but hopefully local. And it is nearer local than global. So unless the gap is too large, we must try to create our own technology. That brings me to a simple question which applies to any field, and that is, so you do need to do anything anywhere, you do need all these things. Without these things, you're not going anywhere. But I add to this something from my own experience of having worked in railways and in Indian environment particularly, and that is, you have to love what you do. You have to love the people you work with, those above, those below, all your colleagues, and you have to love the organization you work for. As a leader, and everyone is a leader, it doesn't matter how many people report to you. It could be your supplier, it could be your client, as long as you are dealing with human beings. You have to love it and love the people you work with. Now, that is not human. It's not easy to love everyone. As a leader, you have to manufacture it. You have to construct that love. You have to contrive. And once it becomes a habit, the dividends you get are immense. The reason is very simple. In spite of all the progress or with the wherewithal of machinery, plant, and so on, and nowadays AI, chat GPT, and whatnot, your human resource still remains your most important resource. And unless they are with you, the organization is not going anywhere. If you don't love what you do, unless it's a serious bread and butter issue, you must quit and go and find something that you love to do. The poet Jigar has said that ek lafz se mohabbat ka adna ye fasana hai, simte to dile aashik, ab phaile to zamana hai. Which means that this word love has this brief story. If it shrinks, it is the heart of a lover. But if it expands, it is the world. Message is very simple. Love whatever you do. For me, it was easy because I worked for this organization, and you would remember that scramble for the window seat as a child, as a teenager, maybe even later, as the marvel, the magic, the wonder of Indian way of life and India itself passed you by. Desolate here, crowded there, indolence and sloth, hard work and grind, celebration and joy, pathos and mourning, rivers, mountains, valleys, deserts, open fields, so much so that the journey became the objective and not the destination. Before these trains I'm going to talk about came in, all the trains on Indian Railways, you can open the door while the train is moving. And if you did that and peeked behind, the snaking train behind you would still give you goosebumps. And even today, a train station is still a great leveler as the richest to the poorest stand next to each other to catch the same train. दामने तारी किए शब की उड़ाती धज्जियां अलगरज चली जाती है बेखौफ खतर आतिशे शायर नफरत खून खौलाती हुई. Without a care in the world, the train moves on, and the shire, with his fire in his belly, is constrained, is excited to write something about it. In Antonio, in Tempest, Antonio says that travelers never did lie, though fools at home condemn them. If you are not able to appreciate the wonderful views that you see from the window of Indian Railways train, I dare say you are a prisoner of your own conflicts and confines. That said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not here to talk to you about this romance. I'm here to talk to you about this. 70 odd years after independence, the recall, the image of an Indian railway train remains the same. The color has changed from Gulf red to blue. We have brought in some German technology, more AC coaches, introduced some high-end trains. But if you close your eyes and register the image of an Indian Railways train, this is what you would see, which remained like an angst, not when I joined on railways or later, but even before, since I come from a railway family, as I looked at magazines from Japan and Europe, I'm talking of late 1960s, early 1970s, and always wondered when this great network of railway that Indian Railways is, with a big pool of engineers, when are we going to get a train which is speedier, aesthetically superior, with superior technology, basically a modern train set. Look at these trains and the emotion is एक जैसे लग रहे हैं सभी चेहरे मुझे, होश की ये इंतहा है या मैं नशे में हूं. I look at these trains and they all look alike to me. Am I intoxicated or is it a state of supreme consciousness? This was the angst and this was the seed of the story I'm trying to tell you today, ladies and gentlemen. The message is very simple. Love is fine, but you have to look beyond love, because the only change is truly permanent in any organization. In government, as you know, the donkeys and the horses, they move in the same file. In 2016, August, this donkey also came in for getting thrown up as a general manager, which is like an institution in Indian Railways, because everyone waits to become a general manager and then do things. I asked for and was assigned because it was vacant. And most people want to go to a zone, which is like a fiefdom in a colonial organization. But this is a factory. Not that many people like to go there. I asked for, was easily assigned to take over as the general manager of Integral Coach Factory, set up in 1950s as a dream project of then Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru to make coaches of current technology with Swiss assistance. Since then, it has gone through many expansions. But the dream of the leader was not followed by any vision by railwaymen like me, and no action plan to move towards that. So much so that turning out more of the same, Integral Coach Factory holds a world record of turning out 50,000 plus coaches, which has not been done by any factory in the world so far. And now the number has touched 70,000, but not much variety or change in technology, more of the same. The gentleman you see on the screen in the middle with a garland is Premier Chow En-lai of China, who came to India and ICF and wrote in the visitor's book, which you see on the left-hand side of your screen, is that every Orient should be proud of this factory. And I would like Chinese engineers to come and learn how to make coaches. 60 years hence, where have we reached? We have to make a beeline to go to China and learn from them, because they have left us far behind in practically every aspect of technology. Why only trains? A week back, I saw a cartoon in a German or Austrian magazine, I don't know, but what it showed was a train, Indian train with an Indian flag, with people inside, outside, on footboard, on roof, everywhere, overtaking a train, a swanky, modern-looking train with a Chinese flag. And the caption read, Bevölkerung, Indian Überholt China, which means population, India overtakes China. Now, the cartoon is certainly in very bad taste, but we have to ask ourselves as to why have we given this reason that such cartoons can be published by foreign magazines. I was invited within a week of joining at ICF to speak on being a government CEO. And I didn't know what a CEO was, having worked all my life in government. I made this table through my internet research, and I found that thanks to empowerment given by this government, the power and authority of a general manager of Indian Railways exceeds that of a CEO of a large private company. But there are two ways to look at it. One is, as my uncle has said, what's in a name? A rose would smell as sweet or rotten. Or my Delhi uncle has said, हमको मालूम है जन्नत की हकीकत लेकिन दिल के खुश रखने को ख्याल अच्छा है. I know the reality of heaven, but just to please yourselves, it's a good thought. Or the other way to look at it is this huge canvas afforded to you with a palette of variegated colors for you to paint it in hues and shades that you like. And I was trying to be a votary of this second version. Sorry to say, but most of the government, even today, after our British rulers have left, still continue to be a feudal and colonial organization. And it's very easy to begin by breaking this protocol, this hierarchy, this straitjacket of propriety, and just open things. Remove the barriers and boundary walls. I'll give you only 3-4 examples. What you see on the left is a family tree. All 12,000 men, nobody is bigger or smaller. Everyone has a face shot from their eye cards. Right there in the lobby, and it became a big selfie point for people to come with their family, find their mug, stand next to it and take their photographs. Because it gave them a feeling of belongingness to the factory. What you see on the right, so it's a 10,000 crore enterprise. I was told that you have many ideas, you're going to spend a lot of money, and I was. In addition to 10,000 crores, also getting special allotments to improve things. So I was told that you do all that, but don't interfere with production. So I was jobless, kind of. And I used to take strolls in the factory aimlessly. And in the process, for 1.5 hours, 2 hours, meet maybe 500 people and go thrust myself on them and ask them a simple question, which I was told never to ask the workers. Well, for them, a general manager is a ceremonial position. He never visits the factory. He visits only for a function. And they don't know the name of the general manager, let alone their face. I would go and thrust myself and ask this question. And the question was, any problem? I was told I will be flooded with answers of all kinds of problems. But you see, 99.5% of the time, the answer was, no problem, sir. If there was a problem with some toilet or lighting or something, there was an engineer following me with instructions to attend it then and there. What it was doing is basically building a bond between those administered and those administering. I am reminded of an example. Some of you would remember that Mananiya Rahul Gandhi ji once went and hugged the Prime Minister in the Parliament. And then what did Modi ji say after he had hugged him? He said, Aaj pata laga कि गले लगने और गले पड़ने में क्या फर्क होता है. Today I learned the difference between hugging someone and tying yourself around the neck of somebody. I was going and मैं इनके जाके इनके गले पड़ जाता था. There's another example, what you see on the bottom right. You see, in government we have this tendency, especially bureaucrats, to immortalize themselves by putting their names on plaques whenever something is launched or inaugurated. Now, it's good for politicians because they have to glorify themselves. But bureaucrats trying to immortalize themselves in this manner, because one of the GMs, I learned it from him, had told him that if I'm not able to live in the hearts of the people I administer, what's the use living on a stone? So I called this engineer, chief engineer, within days of my joining. I asked him, this is a factory which has been here for 65 years. Please go and find out how many plaques are there which has the name of any bureaucrat, chairman, railway board, members, secretaries, GMs, all that works. And please tell me. Count them, don't leave anything. He comes back to me and says that we have 165 odd such plaques all over the factory, community, premises, everywhere. I said, I'm giving you time till this evening, put all your staff, extract these plaques and throw them in the dust, because that's where they belong. And from now on, everything that we'll launch, and we will launch many things, it would be either be launched by a luminary of that field, no bureaucrat, no politician. If it's cultural, some Bharatanatyam dancer. If it's sports, some great sportsman of Chennai. Or otherwise, mostly, the senior most staff of that area, who has given his or her blood, sweat and tears. He is the one who's going to evaluate his name on the plaque, nobody else's. He would come with his son, daughter, parents, spouse, stand next to it and take back something which would live for the rest of his life. He's the one who's going to value it. We did 540 inaugurations in 2.5 years. Maybe 30, 40 of them by luminaries, rest 500 plus by senior most staff who would retire soon. If 500 people, if one man has influence over 10, half the factory won over by this simple means. And nothing, no special effort at all. The message is very simple for the government organizations in India, railways in particular, that it's time to shun all protocol and barriers and go with empathy and openness. There is a 25-30 lakhs fund for entertainment for a GM. I asked whether this, so when is the next party, I was asked. I said, well, I can network with the big wigs of Chennai with money, but what is it going to give ICF? It can give me some network advantage. Check whether I can use this money to have a party with my staff, helpers, technicians, supervisors. And they could not find a reason that I could not do it. And that's what I did in GM's bungalow, which you see on the screen, which has never been seen by them. It has high walls. And once again, example of, we used to have it every couple of months, a party, kind of building a bond, which could not be matched by anything else. A square root rule, 10% of the people you employ. So if you employ 100, 10 do 50% of the work and carry the organization on your shoulder. I don't particularly believe in this. I believe 25, 30% of the people who really are self-motivated don't need anything except a pat on their back. There are 2%, 3% who would not work, incorrigible. And rest, 65, 70 odd % watch if there is a premium on performance or a punishment for non-performance. To make this 65-70% give a little bit more than what they would otherwise do, you have to address these 2-3% only, and address them not through a punishment, because there is nothing like a punishment. I don't believe that there is anything like a punishment. It's either a reform. That means if he shows promise for reform, yes, by all means. Otherwise, throw him out. You cannot punish somebody and keep him in your organization, because he would always be a drag. One may wonder whether it is possible in a government organization. My experience tells me, dealing with my industrialist friends, it's easier to sack people in government than it is in private organization. And we sacked 165 such people, once again, as you see on the screen. Because only a poisonous snake gets respect. A poisonless snake does not get respect. This also we have to remember along with love. क्षमा शोभती उस भुजंग को जिसके पास गरल हो, उसका क्या जो तंतहीन विषरहित विनीत सरल हो. You have to show your fangs, and mercy comes later. If it's a question of starvation or something like that, yes, but not before that. And that's what I would modify what my uncle has said in Timon of Athens: is nothing emboldens sin so much as misplaced mercy. There's one more example, and that is we copy Germany or Japan and push down ideas, calling it ideation, commanding it, cajoling it, dismissing, patronizing it. All you have to do is listen, encourage. Every man has wonderful ideas, but they have no platform to voice it. If at all a platform is afforded, it is patronized. You don't need to do everything that comes as an ideation. Most of the things I have been able to do in my life have only come through ideas from below and not through ideas pushed from top. My message is very simple. Every man has ideas. Respect it, listen to it. You will be the wealthier, the richer because of these. Through various means of officers, which was called One Idea, One Month, giving platforms to technicians, giving platforms to supervisors, we had a bunch of 5,000 ideas in 2.5 years. And at a strike rate of 70-75% just, and it would then become single window for the ideation man to implement it, all helps given. 3,000, 3,500 things done without any extra effort, without any extra move. And one last thing is we have not demolished the system of mistrust that Britishers left for us. Indians were not to be trusted in position of power, and that's why rules, procedures, watchdogs, monitoring. We have carried on with this system. Has it stopped corruption? No. It has increased it, whereas things don't get done. I gave complete freedom to the two chief design engineers coming to the train that we built, that whatever you decide and own up is the final decision. No GM, CME, no finance, no production, no stores, nothing. You are the king as far as what to get from where is concerned. And that was one of the reasons that we were able to build the train so fast. For the government at large, this is the time to build a system which would work only on trust. Responsibility once given also means that the man or woman there in the position is totally trusted. Believe me, corruption will come down and many, many things would get done. We have a tendency to ask for men whenever a new job comes, forgetting this 25-30% formula that I was talking about. More men is always more trouble. If we can excite those 25-30% and then have the other 60-70% join in, a lot can be done without increasing any manpower. In fact, what we were able to do, we said we will not appoint anybody new. I said this 12,000 is going to be 10,000 by the time I leave, because we are overstaffed. Apart from outsourcing measures and so on, what we were able to do was number of men per coach was brought down from as high at 8 and 9 to 2.5, and the production went more than double. We also were able to make integral coach factory a carbon negative factory through large scale solar installation. For shortage of time, I'll not get into this, but the message is very simple. My mother earth and my sister water, because we also restored a water body which was gathering all kinds of sewerage and dust and dying for last 30, 35 years through community effort and government spending. We revived it. And if I'm lying to you, those pelicans which descend on this lake even today are not. And this was the new spirit of ICF, where birds were descending on our reservoir after 30, 40 years, and the ICFians were ready to fly. Before I come to the story of the train, which I would finish in 10 minutes, is this image that I must leave with you. Frailty, thy name is not woman, Mr. Hamlet. Nari tum keval shraddha nahi ho. There are cases of sexual harassment and gender-based discrimination at workplace which are dealt through committees and inquiries and so on, and it goes on. And what I said, I am not the Chief Justice of India. I am a simple administrator. If I learn of such a case, I don't want any written report. I don't want anybody to hold an inquiry, nothing. I only give myself 4 hours to determine if the complaint is genuine, because there could be some false complaints as well. And if I determine through informal means that the complaint is genuine, I give myself 4 more hours to sack the fellow, because that power is given to me by Government of India and other officers, that should I be able to write that an inquiry is not possible, which we would write, because an inquiry is not possible, because we don't want to subject that lady employee to that horror once again, and sack the fellow, let him go to court, he's out of ICF. We sacked 4 people, and this encouraged the lady employees 16 to 17%. They made groups, which was not segregation, but empowerment. The image I leave with you is of 29 Chennai women, aged 23 to 57, supervised by a lady officer, manufacturing a coach through welding and heavy fabrication entirely on their own. And the pride they had in their work can be seen in the photograph next to it. Respect all women as equals. One last thing is what you see on the right. We were always ridiculed in China when our DMUs were kept next to the Chinese DMU. This time when we got an export order, we said, we are going to nail it and give them a world-class product. The team rose to the occasion, and when I visited Sri Lanka last year, 3 years after my retirement, I met some of those engineers. I had retired. They had no reason to lie to me. They said that this time, whatever ICF turned out and sent to Sri Lanka, compared to the Chinese DMU, was far better technologically as well as aesthetically. Coming to the story, you know what a train is, but a train set is only coaches with no locomotives, only 2 cabs in the end, all equipment placed under the board. You can pack a lot of equipment all over the train, so you can have very fast acceleration. It can reduce travel time. You can have very fast deceleration. Number of coaches get reduced because you don't have power cars. It's all under the board to supply air conditioning, lighting. You can go from one coach to other without feeling that you have crossed a coach, because it is through a sealed gangway and a fairing outside, that the entire train has one profile, so aerodynamically superior, aesthetically superior. Huge advantages. For 25, 30 years, this is the type of train which is built. But we did not have a train like this in spite of having the capability to do that. And this was because it was either an internecine warfare between departments about the ownership of the train. It's neither a locomotive nor a coach. Who's going to be the Maibap of this train? Or a lobby to import such a train, which was working overtime. Other lobby which did not want it to come because of fear of losing fiefdom. Procrastination, debate for 25, 30 years. But no such train ever descended in India, either through import or otherwise. That brings me to this circle. You see, we all have large circle of concern because things don't work, especially in India. There are so many concerns that we have. We are so consumed by these concerns that that small dot, a small circle of influence that I have, we tend to forget. There is a saying in Chinese which says that what's the use of cursing darkness? Light your own candle and remove the darkness to some extent near you. शिकवा जुल्मत शब्द से कहीं बेहतर था कि अपने हिस्से की एक क्षमा जलाते जाते. No use complaining about darkness. It's better you light your own torch. And time for me to light this torch, heading this largest factory in the world, had come. And that also brings me to this question when we tell youngsters, you must live your dream. I modify it to say that you must look after yourself, your family, your bread and butter. But don't let that dream die. Let it not be extinguished. Let it linger. An opportunity will come some way or someday for you to realize it. And that opportunity for me had come. So I had the dream, the vision, the fortune, because the staff and engineers that I was bequeathed, I did nothing about it. I got them in ICF. They had this chutzpah, the technical audacity to do something new. They were bored, ennui written all over their face, doing more of the same. I had to only channelize this energy. And I had the opportunity heading the largest factory in the world. And if I did not do something about it, it was not my dream, it was a private dream. And the team of engineers and officers were excited too, but there was some doubt. One doubt was you may be a great GM, but to build a train to run at 180 kilometers per hour, ab initio, in a train set format for the first time, it has never been done, but at the same time, even if you attempt to do it, you need the stamp of railway board to do it. So I said, okay, I'll get that sanction from the board. What's so difficult about it? But I was foolhardy. There was skepticism, cynicism. They thought I was spinning a yarn. Others thought we'll not be able to do it, but only stop import. We are a spoiled sport. Right from end of 2016 till March of 2018, we did not get the sanction. 2017, and I go to the chairman, tell him all kinds of stories. I tell them, you import whatever you want, give me a sanction for 2 trains. I'll try to build it at 1/3 the cost you'll import. He was wavering, and then I did something with him, which is nothing but a difference between pride and vanity. You see, pride always enhances you. You look at everything as a feel good. Vanity diminishes you because you try to elevate yourself by belittling others. So I said, I'm going to grab your feet, Mr. Chairman, and not leave it till you give me the sanction. What I did was basically enhancing my pride because this gave me the sanction. I was able to come back to my people that here is the sanction, let's start working. And by grabbing his feet, I was doing nothing but killing my vanity, which somebody would kill anyway. Better I kill it myself today. Having got this sanction, I come back to our people and they say 200 crores for 2 trains. We are excited. If it works, fine. If it doesn't, then who's going to the scapegoat? Who's going to be? I said, if you make this train work, then you will bask in this glory for the rest of your life of having given the country something that the country has been waiting for decades. If it doesn't work for some reason, then I am the fittest scapegoat. I am retiring in December 18. What would they do to a retired man? That they tried is another matter. As my uncle has said, our doubts are traitors which make us lose the good we oft might win by fearing to attempt. गिरते हैं शह सवार ही मैदान जंग में, वो तिफल क्या गिरे जो घुटनों के बल चले. You see, we always try of successes. Like when I'm introduced, I have some successes, people talk about it, but I have so many failures which are never talked about. Because we are afraid of failures. Whereas failures are nothing but stepping stones to success, and failures have more learning than success. Unless you fail, you will never succeed. These are behind every success, there is a string of failures. And therefore, we should never be afraid of failures, is what I told them. Not that I was not afraid of, but yes, largely, and it worked. They were excited. And then there was this. We were clear we are going to make the train with our technology, our creation. But at the same time, when we made this matrix, 150 things that go into train, roughly, I have truncated it here. There were 3 areas where we thought we needed some hand holding. The industry had come up in the country much better than railways had. And riding on their shoulders, we were going to do that. From brake system, propulsion, and so on, all coming from industry. So many things. 3 areas where we needed help, there was no shame in accepting. Because it's better to be a witty fool than a foolish wit. And there's no problem in saying, I don't know. Pretending to know everything is problematic. So we engage consultants, not companies, consultants who have no stake in future supplies, but only stake is to give you good design. Only caveat was that when you design, when you write anything, you do it with our people, either in person or through video, so that next time around, my people want to design a 200 kilometers per hour train, they would be doing it entirely on their own. This brought us, now that we were all set, only one last major doubt, and that was a project of this magnitude takes 36 to 42 months to do, and that's the systematic way of doing it. From idea to design to concept to engineer to manufacture to validate to test. You are going to retire in December 18. By that time, only the drawings would have been made. Manufacture would not have started. What if the project is abandoned by the next leader? I said, yeah, that's a problem. So we can solve it only by one way, and that is by burning our midnight oil and trying to do something which has never been done in the world earlier. Because we are Indians and we can work hard. We can burn our midnight oil. We can work, as I would say, like donkeys. And we will turn out this train in 2018 itself before I retire, and to remind everyone that the train is going out in calendar year 2018. We gave it a name. And after that, after calling it Train 18, it was only a matter, as I come to the end of my story, hitches and glitches, roadblocks, problems, but always a synergy of this team to solve it, rise to the occasion. Great synergy is what resulted in product getting assembled at a fast speed. And one example, we would do meetings on the shop floor in Chennai heat, right next to where the train was being built, not in air-conditioned conference rooms. Fortune favors the brave, and we were finally able to turn out the train in a grand ceremony in the factory in October 2018. All families were allowed. Unprecedented after turning out 60,000 coaches. Why this love for this train? Because everyone there thought that this was a train made by Indians for Indians, a complete Indian product. It went out for testing. It was tested at 180 kilometers per hour and above, came out with flying colors, was launched by the Prime Minister himself as the Vande Bharat Express between Varanasi and New Delhi in February 2019. I had retired after the train was turned out. There was some negativity after that, which we'll not talk about, but the things are back on track. 2 trains per month are being turned out for last 6-8 months. 15 trains are in service. in these 4 years of service, cumulative, I don't know, it will be many, many years, there has been only one case of failure, which is much more than 6 sigma, ladies and gentlemen. There are 3 things I would say before concluding, and that is number 1, it was just a train, not a Mangalyaan or Chandrayaan or a rocket or a missile, but why did it get such coverage, such appreciation, such love from travelers, non-travelers alone in the country? And it's still getting record-breaking crowds all over whenever the train is launched. And it is launched each and every time by the Prime Minister himself. What is it that the Prime Minister sees in the train that he's there for launching it every time it has to be inaugurated? Last 15 times, and I'm sure he's going to do next 15 times. He summed it up nicely by saying that this train represents, symbolizes the aspirational and resurgent India. Ladies and gentlemen, as my uncle has said, joy's soul always lies in the doing, and it indeed was. But every time I invited to relive the story, I'm able to relive that joy to some extent. So thank you very much. And I'll end by saying with a very simple message that 1,000, 1,000,000 such projects are possible in this country. All it needs is leadership with courage, passion, empathy, and a sense of purpose. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. It's a great talk. And would you please join me giving him an electronic hand, please?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Before we continue to we'll extend the session by 15 minutes and we'll continue to a question answer session. But before I do that, since some people might leave, I would like to share with you the announcement of the next talk. Can you see the announcement of the next talk on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Pardon me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the next talk will be on May 17, same time, 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time, by Mr. Karthik Vaidyanathan. His company's name is Let's Play to Learn, and the title of his talk is Why Game-Based Learning is the Need of the Hour. Okay, so please come join us for Mr. Vaidyanathan's talk on May 17. And now let's go back to Sudhanshu Mani for discussion. Okay, let's see. You can ask your questions through chat or simply raise your hand and speak up. We are going to open your microphones so that you can simply ask your questions. Okay, please.
Shyam, can I start? Lakshmi here.
Yeah, please, Lakshmi, yes.
Mr. Mani, thank you very much. I was really looking forward to hearing.
It would be nice if the speakers, questioners identify themselves in a line in just one sentence and continue.
Yeah, I'll do that. No, I'll just wear the... give me a minute.
You can play your video, sir.
No, one sec. I'll just put on my speaker.
You can enable your video. Okay, sir.
No, I can't. The video is stopped off.
That's
but are you
okay,
able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm Mr. Mani. I've been a practicing engineer. I led Bosch in India for some time.
Sure.
And I also started off Harman in India, which is where I always believe to do in India, for India, by India. Exceedingly nice. I'm very, very proud of what you've done. I just want to ask you one question. In all this, what is the major technological problem that you faced? Was it in the drive system, or was it in the designing the axle, or what?
Sir. So, as I said, the industry in India it has developed much more than railways' own capability. I have no shame in accepting it. For example, the drive system, which is called the propulsion system, and which includes, say, from the overhead, you take power, transform it, take it to converter, convert it, make it amenable for use by an AC traction motor, and all this is controlled by computers dedicated for converter, as well as entire train, which is called train management system. This entire system is called propulsion system. And it is now indigenously available in the country by one company, major, and some other companies as well. This is something which is for this power range is not done for maybe in more than 6-7 countries in the world. So that is the capability of the Indian private sector, which we were riding on. So this would have been a major difficulty in manufacturing the train, but we were banking entirely on this particular company which had made it. Of course, they had also not done a job of this magnitude, but we were very confident of their capability. Other than that, a bogie which carries the coach or a locomotive ab initio had never been designed in the country. We have tinkered with, made it longer, make it, capability, make it lighter or heavier or whatever, all things, but a new design had never been done in the country, and we were going to do that for the first time. That, to my mind, was the biggest technological challenge, because having designed it, we had to put the entire train on it and simulate it on some powerful package to see that the ride index of the train and the lateral forces, which would define the safety of the, as well as the roadworthiness of the train, were well within the limits. But this would be possible only when, we could not wait for that and then start manufacture. That kind of luxury we didn't have because of the timeline. So that was the technological risk that we took, that we went ahead with production, even as these long-term simulations were being done. And we were, in a way, I could say we were lucky to some extent that the results came out pretty encouraging, or rather, they showed that everything was within limits. But that was one challenge that we were a little taken by. And the other challenge was mainly about supply chain maturing in time. I would not call it a technological challenge, but for everything to come in time, or for the train to be put together, was a challenge. So I would say that two main challenges were propulsion system and the bogie. One was taken care by the private industry, and the other was taken care by ICF.
Thank you, but I'll probably mail you more because other people waiting to ask you questions.
You're welcome,
great
sir.
listening
Anytime.
to you.
Welcome. Anytime, sir.
Thank you. I think Vijay and Sujata are wanting to ask questions.
Yeah, there is also a question in the chat.
Please go ahead. Why don't you ask your question?
Yes. Did you think differently about how the maintenance of Train18 happens and is executed compared to older train models? Yeah, absolutely. Because as you know, more and more condition-based and predictive maintenance has to come in. And the equipment which is now used has to be more and more amenable for this kind of maintenance. We have not really reached there good enough, but we have made steps towards that. Other thing was, of course, long-term maintenance contracts. As the equipment become more and more sophisticated, that's not something your regular railway maintainers can really take up. It may prove to be a bit more expensive or perhaps not, but there is a tendency now to move over to a long-term annual maintenance, long-term maintenance contracts with the manufacturers or their arm, which also support this maintenance. And this has happened along with this train, that major parts of the maintenance, things which can go wrong in propulsion system, in door mechanism, in brake system, is being taken care of by the manufacturer themselves through a maintenance contract. I hope I have answered your question, but if there's anything specific, please, Mr. Karwal can please ask me. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Next, please go ahead.
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
Sham?
Yes, Sujata, please.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Mani. I'm Sujata Srinivasan. I'm a professor in mechanical engineering at IIT Madras, and I work on assistive devices for people with disability. So I really enjoyed your talk, and even more so the storytelling. I think you did a fantastic job in holding our attention, and what a story it is. So I was wondering, I haven't been on a Vande Bharat Express yet, but looking at it from the point of view of people with disability, is that something you looked at in the designing of your coaches to make them accessible? And yeah, I would just like to know more about that.
Yeah, so yes, ma'am. So it's a raw nerve in a way, because there's a lot of lip service, but this people with disabilities face great difficulties in first of all embarking on our train, disembarking, and then finding place, going to the toilet. So there are two parts. One is the space and facilities inside the train, and one is entraining and detraining. So first part, spacious place for movement of wheelchairs, for storage of wheelchairs, similar things, supports, toilets, which are very, very friendly to people with disabilities, was all done. And when you will travel in the train, you will agree with me, ma'am. The second part we could do nothing about, unfortunately. Before that we tried in we had a time constraint, but that's not an excuse. Even today, nothing has been done after 5 years. Chennai itself, we developed something which could, ramp out hydraulically and go back. There is a big challenge, and the challenge is that either the train would not start. It won't start if the ramp is out and it's not getting in. Somebody has not put it in. You need a management of that ramp, and that management would need people, which is non-existent. To my mind today, having studied the problem, it cannot be done in the train. It has to be something at the station, manned by somebody, and one dedicated coach or part of the coach dedicated for people with disabilities at large stations at least. That help on the platform has to put that ramp in position, let people entrain, and then remove that ramp. And after he completes this operation, then only the train should start. That needs committed empathy in railways or even other transport services to provide that kind of manpower and provide that facility. That, I'm sorry, has not happened. So really, to answer your question, we have been able to do 50% of the work, but it's no good till you also have a comfortable entraining and detraining facility, which we really could not provide. And even today, it's not being provided.
I do hope that in future versions that would be taken into consideration.
No, as I said, ma'am, it has to be done at the station. It is not something which, even abroad, you will find that such ramps are mainly a station-based equipment. I've seen it in trains also, but usually it's always at the station. But I don't think there is any great movement toward doing anything. So, which is unfortunate, but that's the the fact of the matter today, ma'am.
Vijay Raman, please. Vijay.
Thank you, Shyam. Sudhanshu, I just wanted to know if in the 2.5 or 3 years preceding all these matters related to your creating 2018, Train 2018 with your team, whether anyone in the board was conscious, railway board was conscious of the specific problem that you were developing a train that had a maximum speed, but there are very few stretches of track in this country where that maximum speed can be reached in a sustained manner. So, was there any degree of concern that they should gear up towards doing that on, shall we say, 10 or 15 such 300 to 500 kilometer corridors for starters?
Right. So, when you design something, you design it for an application. We designed it for an application of 160 kilometers per hour train, which existed only between Delhi and Bhopal, a very small stretch. So we were going to make this train future ready. In board was not too much into the train itself in the beginning. It's only after there was a big media hype because a group of journalists had also come to the factory in 2018, sent by the chairman railway board, that they rose to the visibility and the attraction of the train. We knew that Delhi, Howrah and Delhi, Mumbai had been sanctioned for upgradation to 160 kilometers per hour around that time. And we expected it to be done in a couple of years so that by the time more trains were made, there would be corridors for 160 kilometers per hour speed operation. It has not happened because infrastructure work has lagged behind the train manufacture. In spite of a delay of 2-3 years, rather 3 years in getting more trains out, infra is still not ready. Sanctions exist. To my mind, all the quadrilaterals and all the diagonals can be done in a matter of 4 or 5 years. You need the will, of course, and execution of the contract. Unfortunately, train gives you visibility. Train is there for everyone to see. They like it. They're happy about it. Infra development, it's a technical detail which people are not concerned about. And therefore, the politicians and then even bureaucrats are not giving due attention to it. So to answer your question, infrastructure is sadly lagging far behind. The number of trains that are getting added are not being used at their potential.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. Mr. Ramesh Rao.
Yeah. This is Ramesh Rao from Bangalore.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Sudhanshu, I've been following your very good talks and inspirational lectures and all that. I'm really impressed by what you are able to do despite such a overpowering ecosystem. And it is really admirable and a lesson for all of us. It's a very good leadership lesson, I feel. Now, coming to an extension of what my predecessor had asked, that is related to the infrastructure. And I'm concerned about the new futuristic trains, which are planned for, say, between 200 and 350 kilometers per hour. Several routes have been designated. And these Vande Bharat trains are being planned for even export in the next 5 to 6 years. This is what I understand. So what do you think will be the trajectory and what problems you feel need to be addressed immediately? Sure. And of course, in the long term, of course.
Yeah, first is about these stretches 200 to 350 and so on. Let me clarify to you, sir. The existing track with even major investment at times, maybe easing of the curves also at some points and so on. It has to be seen case by case, but there is no possibility of taking these tracks beyond 200 kilometers per hour speed operation. Right now, even we are struggling even to reach 160. The train is capable for 200 with some tweaking. So that infra is ready. I believe with commitment from the government, funds not being a constraint in railway arena nowadays, in capex has gone up 6 times. It can happen in 10 years that you will have aluminum Vande Bharat equivalents running at 200 kilometers per hour, crisscrossing the country. It's possible. Whether it will happen or not will depend on how the government goes about it. It's more talk than actual action nowadays. Above 200, 220 kilometers per hour, it has to be a dedicated high-speed network. Beginning has been made between Mumbai and Ahmedabad, project delayed because of politics in Maharashtra and so on, back on track now, should be ready by the end of the decade. And I think at least 2-3 more sectors have to be done for this speed range. For example, I would say Chennai, Bangalore. If you have it, air traffic in that sector is gone. There will be no air traffic. And railways are 6 to 8 times more cleaner than road and air. So when I say air traffic gone, it's good for the country. Otherwise, it can compete with air. But right now, there are surveys done for many, many sections, but freezing of which is the next section on which to have high-speed rail has not been done. I believe we must do it quickly for 2 more 400 to 600 kilometer stretch of high speed. One. Number 2, you talked about export. So once again, export was all hype. In fact, a senior officer from a PSU designed for handling railways export, I heard his statement saying that we have decided to quickly export Vande Bharat trains to Nepal and Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. I mean, the gentleman did not even know that these countries do not even have OHE. And he was talking about exporting these trains. And so it is the hype which is a problem. Coming to brass tacks, we have been exporting our rolling stock to countries largely against Indian line of credit, very rarely against open bidding. In any case, the countries we are exporting to are such which would not be able to afford this train. They don't have money, so to say, especially for railway sector. Their railway sector is not that developed at all. Then the top countries, developed countries, they would not buy from us at this stage. And I don't think they should, because we have not reached world standard. We are near world class. We have miles to go before we become world class. Plus, those countries have protection. You see, Europeans don't buy from Japan. Japan doesn't buy from Europe. They don't buy from China, which make the best trains in the world today, in a way. So we won't be able to export there. That leaves middle income level countries. To quote a few, not specifically that they needed, but to quote a few: Indonesia, Malaysia, Turkey, Mexico, Brazil, South Africa. These countries do not have the capability to make a train set on their own. They all have, nearly all have standard gauge or meter gauge or Cape gauge. And it should be possible for us to export to them. But for that, we have to start working now. We have to start designing, because they don't have broad gauge. And by various means, even by sending a couple of coaches to Pueblo or some other test center to test the train, various means, we should be ready to prove out that we'll be able to supply this train in standard gauge. But the work must start now. It won't happen just by announcing in newspapers without any action on the ground.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. We have kept you for long, but if you don't mind, I'll keep you for 2 more minutes to take the last.
Sure, sir. I can see
Mr.
Sarabjit
Yes.
Singh.
Sarabjit, go ahead, please.
Hello, everyone. I am also a railwayman for life, as Sudhanshu has put it. And Sudhanshu, it's always such a pleasure listening to what you have said. I'm going to ask you a sort of hypothetical question.
Yes,
Let
sir.
us assume that you were still the general manager of ICF.
Yes, sir.
In which direction would you have taken the Train18? And how would you have contoured the development to make India into global level? That's my sort of hypothetical question.
Yes. So the first thing, we were constrained for time. We had a 18-month, 19, 21 months time regime to complete the train. There were many things we would have liked to do, but we could not do. Number one, the quality of the exterior and the interior. It is good, much better than our train, but is nowhere near world standard. I would have liked to, in next future trains, not count numbers, but achieve that kind of perfection in quality, without which we won't be able to export, for example. That would have been my priority, because the equipment which drives the train, the brake system we have in the train, the coupler, the gangway, the door system, everything is world class. But the finish, exterior and interior, needs improvement. That would have been my. Then I would have driven to go to aluminum version of the Vande Bharat train, and I would have liked to do it in ICF itself. We would have to engage a partner outside because of two reasons. First of all, we don't have facilities with any large company in India to make extrusions of aluminum to the type we require. These are long extrusions to avoid welding. Although India is a large aluminum producer, but nobody has that facility, and rightly so, because there is no demand. If we make large number of aluminum trains, then only that demand would generate and excite somebody to invest in that kind of extrusion plant. So I would have loved to move a project of at least 20, 25 trains, so that we get aluminum trains from abroad and then start manufacturing in India, because aluminum is lighter, more energy efficient, aesthetically superior, more durable, there's no corrosion, things like that. Fortunately, what has been done is a 100 train tender, and I hope that order goes through. At that stage, our sites were only doing 20, 25. I would have liked to pursue that strongly. And thirdly, I would have quickly started designing a sleeper version. So we are waiting for a true overnight service between, say, Delhi and Howrah and Delhi and Mumbai. What we have today, Rajdhani, is not overnight. It starts at 5 o'clock in the evening, reaches there at 9 or something. So it's like a 16, 17 hours journey. Using Vande Bharat version 2 in aluminum and a sleeper version, I would have loved to see a train that could do Delhi, Howrah or Delhi, Mumbai in 12 to 13, maximum 13 hours. And it's possible. Even on existing tracks are being upgraded in any case. But that sleeper version, in spite of passage of 4.5, 5 years, on which work was started earlier, is non-existent. It's still not come about. I believe they have started some work, but it has not happened. I just cannot imagine where they would put these 500 trains, because premium day trains may be about 100, 15 are running, and very soon we'll find that we are putting it on routes where there is no clientele. 2 out of these 15 are going half occupied. The one from Chhattisgarh to Nagpur, and the Delhi to Mumbai to Sholapur. So if you are going to relegate this train to such routes for want of any other section, then that's not good. It's an expensive train. So the sleeper version I would have pursued. So these are the three main things I would have driven, sir. To answer your question, largely for India to become a global rolling stock manufacturer, we have to concentrate largely on making products and design. Manufacturing improvement, we have that. But unless we make products of our own, we have made just one, sir. We have to make multiple products. with our own trained manpower and become a maker of products, railway products. Manufacturing would follow, if not in railways, in private industry, which is very, very dynamic today. But that stress on designing a product in-house and going really after it, that would have been my goal by hook or crook. That's something I had to do, would love to do. Unfortunately, that's not happening. The stress is only making the kind of train we made, or tendering for others to come and make in your factory the same design. That will never make us a global power. We have to make our own products. Example is right there in front of us, China. Chinese got everyone into China. They leveraged their volumes, which are very large, but then we also are not small. Our volumes are pretty large. Look at the tenders which have been floated. And after learning from these, they, if I can use the term, bung them out and made their engineers capable to make world-class designs right there in China. If they can do it, we can also do it. But that work has to start now, sir. We are already lagging.
Thank you, Sudhanshu.
Thank you, Sudhanshu. This talk is just absolutely fabulous talk. And it's more than talk. You have done the work. And it occurred to me that in defining CREE as combination for engineering innovation, we need skills and knowledge, but we also need courage and imagination, which is, I'm thankful to you for bringing that to your talk with, of course, the poetry. This was wonderful.
Very kind words, sir. There is one last, if I can steal 30 seconds from you.
Please.
Sir, as the leader, leave aside the government, it perhaps does not like me, but I got so much love and appreciation from people in the country, unprecedented. It was just a train. I realized that after retirement that the story had to be told, but more than that, call out the members of the team by name, because they were the ones who really did the work, and record their contribution for posterity. And that's why I wrote this book. It's called My Train18 Story. I have tried to put everyone who contributed as far as possible, his name in the book and what he did. I have no commercial interest in its sales, sir. It's available in Amazon. This was something I thought I'll point out, because these team members, they would otherwise go unsung and unknown. And sorry for interjection, but I thought I must tell everyone this.
I think giving credit to your entire team is what makes you a leader, a true leader who has been able to accomplish things and inspire others. Thank you so much. I would again, would you please join me in thanking Sudhanshu Mani for his wonderful talk. I'm going to put on the screen again the announcement of the next talk. So just to make sure that you have the announcement in your hands. Sudhanshu's talk will be, the video will be placed on CREE website in about a week or so. And you're welcome to watch it again or tell your friends to watch this. So 7th lecture again will be by Karthik Vaidyanathan in 2 weeks. Why game-based learning is the need of the hour. And I hope, as CREE's goals are, that this will help reimagine engineering innovation again. Thank you. There's some, we want to say something?
Thank you very much.